Hi, I'm Kata and welcome to the Walk the Valley, the podcast that breaks down the barriers to bringing healthcare innovation to market. Today I'm joined by Zdravko Obradović, CEO and founder of Clinical Trial Bid, the first ever clinical trial tenders hub, and also CEO and founder of EBS Clinical Research. He is based in Serbia. Zdravko has worked with clinical trials for more than 20 years and has witnessed the full evolution of the industry from the times of fax machines to today's AI-driven platforms. Clinical trials are often seen as one of the biggest challenges for startups, expensive, time-consuming, and super complex. But does it really have to be this way? In this episode, we'll explore why the Balkans are emerging as a powerful region for clinical research and how startups can set up trials that are faster, leaner, and more efficient, but without compromising on standards. Zdravko, you've been in clinical trials for so long. What's changed the most since the early days?
Yes. Thank you very much for having me in your podcast, and thank you very much for choosing this particular subject to talk about today. Well, I was involved in clinical trials more than 20 years ago, and actually I was there to witness when the first wave of technology took over the conduction of clinical trial, end of 90s and beginning of 2000. And everybody who is involved in clinical trials remember when we switched over from the paper CRF forms to electronic data capture. Everybody who worked with clinical trials back then remember that we used to get for example, lab results via fax machine, making calls, sending letters, sending copies of source data, etc., etc. And everything changed very quickly. When first electronic data capture systems were introduced, I witnessed that everybody involved in clinical trials was very reluctant to switch to the new technology. I was among those people that thought this new change will slow us down, will give us some additional problems. Generally, people always tend to do business as usual, do business as they used to. But very soon we realized that technology brings us something new and brings us the time that we can spend on more important things. We can spend that time in the development, in learning new systems, learning about the indication, research and everything. So yes, beginning of clinical trials and later on development of how clinical trials were conducted changed very significantly thanks to technology. And we are lucky enough to witness again a kind of tech revolution right now. We're living in that age, and that is obviously artificial intelligence. And everybody who thinks that artificial intelligence will, take over the world or take over our jobs and everything is wrong. Same as I was wrong beginning of 2000s when I thought that introducing of some automatization such as electronic data capture, CTMS system, etc. will bring us problem. No, it gave a solution, and the new technology revolution that we are witnessing right now with artificial intelligence will give us 10,000 times more opportunity, give us more time back than this tech revolution beginning of 2000s. Artificial intelligence is here to stay, and very soon we will see the changes, and those changes will be for better. I'm completely sure about that. And this is where both of my companies, the startup Clinical Trial Bid and my boutique CRO company, EBS Clinical Research, we try to tap into this new technology breakthrough and to stay on the first wave of the technology that will be for sure introduced into the clinical trial operations.
Thank you for this timeline and introduction. This is very interesting that you brought up AI, and I actually was going to ask you about how you see it reshaping clinical trials in the coming years. Do you have any specific ideas what AI will do for clinical trials?
Yeah, I have a pretty good ideas because I'm researching options to introduce artificial intelligence into the management of the clinical trials. You you heard about AlphaFold 3 from Google. Everybody is aware of that, and they are actually putting together a magnificent tool that will be involved in the drug discovery. When they talk about this new tool, they say it will speed up the drug discovery by, I don't know, 100 and 1,000 times quicker.
Yes.
And after the drug discovery, obviously you have to test it on patients in order to put your product on the market. And there is where we have a bottleneck, because clinical trials everywhere in the world has to be a kind of tedious process, because we have to adhere to certain rules, regulations, and SOPs and everything. That is a good thing, because that keeps subjects, patients, and everybody involved in the clinical trials safe. So safety first. This is old school clinical trials that I learned what is the first thing connected with the clinical trials: safety of the patients. So that means all those regulations and those tedious bureaucracy work that we have involved in the conducting of the clinical trial, it's there for the purpose. The purpose is safety of the patients. And that is the first rule for the successful and ethical clinical trials.
Yes.
Anyway, how that corresponds with AI. AI in all aspects of our lives will give us speed up of bureaucratic, tedious, repetitive processes. The same for clinical trials. AI will give us speed to do the processes that are repetitive, that are administrative. We'll do them 100, 500 times quicker. And we will not compromise any step of the conduction of the clinical trial, nor the patient's safety. Mm-hmm. And that is something that will practically revolutionize the process of clinical trials, because median time needed for the product to go from discovery to market is 7 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. I'm completely sure, and I can guarantee that because I have a vision of that implementing of new technology, especially artificial intelligence, will speed up the process from 7 to 10 to maybe 2 to 3 years. And what that means new drug on the market sooner for those in need. So patients in need will get the cure 2 times quicker thanks to the new technology.
On one hand, yes, the patients will get the innovation faster, the new treatments faster, thanks to this technology. Yeah. But it also speeds up the process for startups who are typically cash-strapped and have the biggest cost in clinical validation and regulatory compliance.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the other side of the story. So the greatest benefit is to give the cure to those in needs sooner. But also, if you want to have cures, somebody has to invent them, And who is putting new products on the market? All those guys working hard in labs, doing scientific work, and putting together ideas to create the drugs and medical device. And those guys work very hard to put idea into the product and product onto the market. Mm-hmm. This is hard work,
Yes.
This is what costs money, time, and they say maybe one of the 10,000 ideas become products in the clinical trials, and one of the 1,000 maybe gets in 10 years on the market. So we want to basically, I think we should increase those percentages. We have good, hardworking, smart people working on the medical device and drugs, new solutions in healthcare. So this will give them opportunity to increase the percentage of those potential ideas to become products and these products to go on the market. And this is actually what is revolutionizing in clinical trials. Small companies, small startups will need less time, and that equals less money to put their products on the market. How? Because AI and other technologies that will follow will enable them to spend less time on the bureaucracy, on tedious paperwork, on making the Excel sheets, making the diagrams. This will be done by AI. And AI will not replace anybody, because people that drive the market and that drive the progress are people with ideas. And people with ideas will have the most benefit of new technologies. All the tedious work will be handled by AI in the future, and they will be able to put more intellectual work in developing new ideas and going from the ideas to the product. This is what will happen in the future, I'm sure of that, and not in distant future, in next couple of years.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on this actually. So this is already touching upon my next question, that clinical trials become faster and cheaper. And on that note, you run your CRO out of Serbia. I hear here and there from startups that the Balkan region is super attractive for clinical trials.
There are the reasons for that, you know.
Yeah.
Serbia is a Balkan country, the largest non-EU country in the Balkans. And the good thing is that we have, here in Serbia, we have over 75 hospitals that can perform various kind of clinical trials. We have very good experienced potential investigators that are very eager to join some of the clinical trials. We have access to more than 6 million potential patients, and we have very expeditive timelines for approving new clinical trials. So those are all benefits for some emerging startup working in Serbia. Outside of the story with the new technology, you have a country and the region of Western Balkans where you have great pool of patients, everything on the level of Western European countries. I mean, potential investigators, hospitals, technology in the hospitals. You have access to connect with the Western European countries. Capital of Serbia is 1.5 hour fly time from any major city in Europe. We have great patient tracking in the governmental hospitals, and we have a fast track submission and approval of the clinical trial. In Serbia, for example, we have a joint submission for the regulatory and ethics submission. You just make one electronic submission. In 2, 3 to 4 weeks, you get regulatory approval, and within 90 days, you can have from beginning of work in Serbia, you can have your site initiated and first patient in, which is very fast comparing to the other European countries. Why it is more cost efficient in Serbia? Not because the lack of the quality, on the contrary, but the working hours in Serbia for the specific work in the healthcare is significantly lower in Serbia than in Western Europe.
You mean, the working hours or the price of the working hours?
Price of the working hours. And also all other administrative and other costs are 30-40% lower than in Western European countries.
So we have shorter timelines because of the more efficient approval process. We have great experienced staff and huge patient pool.
Yes.
And lower prices. This sounds like a dream, honestly. But how about
Labor and operational costs are significantly lower, and we have great patient access because population is generally treatment naive in Serbia and very eager to participate in clinical trials because it gives them option for the chronic patients and some indications that cannot get the latest treatment. And also we have a great infrastructure because Serbia has a modern hospitals, centralized healthcare system with active research institution and university hospitals, and we have this internal coverage of between hospitals of the patient recruitment and everything. And this is all advantages of performing clinical trials in Serbia.
And do you think that staff capacity in these hospitals might be a limiting factor? Or is it possible to scale up the clinical trials?
On contrary, I was involved in clinical trials all over the world, all the continents. Believe me, I worked from New Zealand to US and Canada and South America, etc. In Serbia, the good thing in Serbia is that you can have several principal investigators for one indication in most of the hospitals. So there are several university professors or the experienced physician for almost every indication in almost every hospital. And each and one of those potential PIs has its own team of pharmacists, nurses, technicians, sub-PIs, etc. So it works like a clockwork comparing to some other countries. So I never had experience in these 20 years that we have problem with the understaffing for the clinical trials because it's in the best interest of the patient, it's in the best interest of study teams, and they tend to perform very serious and dedicated work because they want to be involved in other and future clinical trials. So this is something that is also advantage of Serbia to some other countries in Europe.
I see. And what does it mean in practice for startups? For example, if I have a medtech company in Sweden or Denmark and I want to do clinical trials and I've already maxed out my options here in the Nordics, and I think it would be great for me to go to Serbia or to the Balkans to scale in that area. What does that mean for me in practice? I come to you and what happens?
Yes, in practice, you can go to our website and you can schedule a meeting with us just stating your needs or your thoughts. So we don't even have to get the full written proposal or anything. I will give you an example. We had a call from the sponsor in Germany this year, and they had a problem because they targeted to enroll 120 patients in their clinical trial, and by the time they spoke to us, they only enrolled 42 patients in 3 countries in Europe. And the time was running out. They were running late with the recruitment, and we, from 42, in 9 weeks, we managed to get the study approved and get recruited patients, 126 patients, from 42 to 126 patients, just these couple of days over 9 weeks. So they had this need, and I spoke with them on the initial meeting. I saw what the urgency is. I saw actually what they're looking for. We made a great preparation. We choose wisely the sites. I know the sites that have a big recruitment potential. I had a meeting with PIs before they even finished the feasibility, asked them to take a special care of this particular clinical trial, and it ended up with a happy end. And now they're preparing next phase of the clinical trial, and they want 5 sites in Serbia for the next phase, So everybody is happy. Client is happy, PIs are happy, and the patients, of course.
Yeah, sounds like a great setup. Do you have any advice for cash-strapped medtech startups when they reach the clinical trial stage?
Well, these are the advices that I give to all my clients. They have to plan in advance. And this is the main thing. You have to know, and this is really from my experience. I'm not that smart, but I saw that from the first row many times. You have to plan in advance. That is the name of the game. And we can help our clients to plan in advance. So, and that includes geographically where you will work, when you anticipate that the milestones will be finished. And in order to get all this planned, you have to choose wisely the vendor who can actually help you plan, because very often the vendor you select is not able to see themselves how each milestone will be completed and when it will be completed, and then you cannot plan anything. So the greatest benefit we give to our clients is to plan together, to speak about milestone 1, milestone 2, 3, 4, to plan for the next year after that. What if that happens? And always it ends up with a happy end for the client. This is why we started Clinical Trial Bid, the CTB, because we automatized needs of the clients, need of the startups, of the sponsor. You don't know what you need when you want to finish your work. At the very beginning, you are not sure what you need. This is why we give them opportunity for our application to create them the request for proposal. They put in the details, we help them create the proposal, we include artificial intelligence in creating proposals. So in a couple of hours, maybe one day, they can create a final, definitive, and very accurate request for proposal, saying what are their needs at this moment. When they do that, we take it to the next step. We match that proposal with the vendors that can actually perform what they request in their work. And this is also automatized. And we help those vendors to create proposals based on this request. So we try to make this process advanced, automatized, without human errors, without forgetting something. And that is something that will help enormously small startup in planning and executing each and every step of their clinical trials. Also in EBS clinical research, when you are planning and executing and conducting the clinical trials, there are many meetings, planning, reporting, maps, Excel tables, charts, etc., etc. We introducing AI agents and tools to perform this kind of work. So you can fine-tune your report, your graphic, because it all helps you plan in advance. So the key word is plan in advance, and we use technology and experience to help client plan in advance. And that is always the good outcome.
I see. And you mentioned that you use artificial intelligence and AI agents in the process, and that really speeds it up and makes it super efficient. Do you see any risks with this, as the technology is right now?
You mean confidentiality risks?
Yes, but also if the AI doesn't work as it should, for example, hallucinations, or the model is not super well developed.
Yeah. This is the question that often is raised when it comes to AI. But we don't have these problems, and I will give you straight up answers how we overcame that. For the hallucination and not being accurate, etc., in clinical trials, we have this policy. We use AI to help us do the work, but we always review by human. There is no definite decision made by AI. And we still are not there with AI regarding the clinical trials and such work that is very delicate and can put somebody's health in danger. So it's always the final decision, and any decision is made by the human in the process. So AI is doing the tedious and hard work, but decisions are always made by real person. And this person is assigned to spot, recognize, and correct the hallucination. There is another thing, and it includes the safety issues. For most of our agents, I mean AI agents, we choose not to use, this will be maybe technical, but I will do my best to explain. It's really not that it's simple. We tend to use small language models instead of large language models. You heard about LLM. ChatGPT is LLM, you know.
Yeah.
But we designed SLMs. That means, let me give you the example. You have a bunch of documents, rules, regulations, legislative, that actually determines what you need to do to get your study approved, for example, in Serbia. You know, you have rules issued by the government, by Ministry of Health, all the legislation, rules from ethical committee, etc. So you have limited amount of documents that is telling you what you need to do in order to submit and get the approval from the ethics and the regulatory authorities in Serbia. You get all these documents and put them in the specific agent which can do work offline. So you put your request there and it gives you output, always the same output, predicting, give us, you have to submit these documents, put this document here for the review, you have this document missing, you have to do that. It does the work for you to prepare the documents and to do the actual submission. But since it's SLM, small language model, it can work on your computer and you're not sharing any kind of information, and we are not even sharing in any step of the process. We are not sharing sensitive and confidential information in such a way that somebody else can have access to that and use it. And that brings us back to the hallucination, much less hallucination when you divide the process into clusters, into segments, and you feed the data you need to the specific cluster. There is one segment, one cluster, submission and approval. Even subclusters, regulatory and ethical submission and approval. Then you have feasibility cluster, then you have patient recruitment, retention cluster, etc., etc. You feed the data, you feed the documents, you feed the SOPs, rules, types of the outputs, types of the charts and reports you want to have, and you can have always same report, same output, and the person is responsible to put in the right documents in that cluster, so it's always up to date.
I see.
I'm not sure if that was clear enough.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's not very complicated, right?
No, it's very clear how you explain this, and also very smart to use local clusters for this instead of large LLMs, where
We use large LLMs for other purposes, but never, and we are very transparent, and clients know what is going on with their data always, and they obviously can see that there are no safety issues, safety risks, because they are in charge of how their data is treated. So we implement in our everyday work, we implement those solutions in the work of EBS clinical research, and we share them with our clients, and we also can provide them with similar technical solutions that they can use in the future, whether they work with us or with somebody else. We do that also, not only service with the clinical trials. And the CTB, my startup company, we try to make the marketplace for clinical trials favoring small companies to have the same chances of getting their product to the market as the big companies with big money and global companies, etc. So we believe in that.
This is so important because often startups just fail because they run out of cash.
I saw that many times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming closer to the end of our discussion, so I just have one more question left for you.
Great, sure.
If you could change one thing in the global clinical trial system tomorrow, what would it be?
Well, that is a question, great question. And if I have to choose only one thing, I think I would change something to give the same opportunity to everybody. I think that is the clue. Mm-hmm. I think that is what new technology will give us because, I'm 23 years in the clinical trials right now. I can give you straight up examples which I saw from the first row how great ideas and great potential products went to oblivion because it was done by a small company, group of brilliant people, some researchers, fellows, etc., because lack of the money or lack of influence. So in order to make this world safer and more, should I say, healthier, we need to give a chance to the brilliant people, to smart people, to hardworking people, to give them access to the global market and to put their ideas on the market. I think this is something that I would change. Give the same opportunity to everybody so the smartest, brightest, and most brilliant people can decide what will soon get on the market and how we can actually cure the disease, because I am medical doctor. This is my occupation, and I know everybody who works in clinical trials want to help people, want to make world better. That I would change. Let's try to make world a better place. It's a cliche, I know, but really that drives all of us.
But also a beautiful note to finish this discussion on. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very
so
much.
For
Great.
taking the time to talk to me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us share more unfiltered insights from innovators shaping the future of healthcare. You can find Walk the Valley on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep walking the valley.